the great debate. And, I would love to debate the fact that a computer could not possibly outthink us.
No.
Come on, please. The human being, the epitome of rational thought.
Well, that's why 80% of computers are doing most of the trading. Not guys or gals.
If we were the epitome of rational thought, we wouldn't be destroying our climate. All right, I'm done on that point.
So what happened? Can you kind of explain this, Alex? What happened with IBM?
So
what did they do here? This is really fun.
IBM put on a show. IBM has an AI system that they wanted to test publicly, a little 5-foot, tall computer thing. And they said, okay, this thing's pretty logical. Would it win in a debate against the world's top debater? The top debater, his name is Harish Natarajan, went in this debate in 2019. So, and it was really for the crowd's judgment that was watching this event unfold between man and machine, whether the machine won or man won. And they said that man won. But the machine was quite logical. It did a good job. Now, I got to tell you, as long as the biggest farce out of this entire thing, as long as the logic of Harish Natarajan is more logical than the guy that wrote the algorithm for the AI, he will win 11 out of 10 times.
But it leads to the question of, and this is what I get in the future, of letting AI make decisions for us. Will we have a group of AIs that become politicians?
Well, if we let the AI make the decision, okay, who put the original programming in that AI, the base? I'm building a house, okay? You have your project managers that come on a construction scene, and they're watching the guys pour the concrete. But before that happened, somebody had to stabilize the land. They had to pad the dirt down, put whatever reinforcements in place, and then say, this is going to be the outline of the foundation. They put the wood frame, okay? And then they're pouring the concrete. Did they do a good job? Is it going to crack? Is it fundamentally sound in its structure? Was anybody checking the AI to see if it was fundamentally sound in its structure? Especially before the stance, like in the future, that we allow it to make decisions for us, maybe in, running certain aspects of society. Has that been checked? Was the logic of who did that absolutely sound? Was it flawless? Clearly, this machine at IBM, not flawless. Because if it was, this guy he'd be like, oh, I can't do anything about that. I think it's pretty smart. Got me. You know what it reminds me of? Did you ever see the movie War Games? Where the kids playing tic-tac-toe with the AI?
Yes.
This is what it reminds me of. There was still at the very end this fundamental flaw that the machine thought it was one or the other, that it was zero sum. But really, it didn't have to be that way. There is that middle ground. And when we create these algorithms or we do these debates, or if we choose to say that we want AI to run society in the future for humans, we got to make sure that it understands the middle ground, that it has some flexibility in it to adjust to the errors of human nature and its own nature, because we wrote the original algorithm that went into it to power this thing. So how it decides to think, we told it how to think.
It would be so cruel too. Could you imagine, like, let's say Chicago blackouts, summertime, the heat's crazy, and so then this AI would turn and say, well, these areas have high influence people in them.
Mm-hmm.
This area needs power. This area doesn't. Let's cut the power off to the lower income people. If they die, that's actually a good thing because we need less population.
Yeah,
that's what the AI would do.
That's what it would do, because this is the most efficient path forward.
And these people are the people that are moving society forward, so they need all the comforts in the world.
Let's give them everything.
So then you've just created an elitist society, and now you have this AI, because it's not. It
doesn't care.
It doesn't care about human. It doesn't value human life.
It's a computer.
Yes.
When everyone wants to blame the AI, when they look at Teslas and they were crashing into stuff, or those Google cars, it's not the computer. We designed it and told it what to do. Those are our flaws. Mm-hmm. It's just doing what it's told. When your computer,
that's why you have updates.
When a computer fails in front of you and you're like, it's not working. It's human error. A computer perfectly takes input and output.
Yes.
That's what it does. Okay? So don't blame the AI. And so if you're looking towards your future, you better make sure you are so fundamentally sound in how you design the logic of that system. Design it for flexibility. Design it to try and understand and make sure that it protects human life at all costs.
And whenever we look at artificial intelligence and we see issues that are facing the world, and I think we could, with the right data and the right statistics, I think we can solve a lot of problems with artificial intelligence, the ability for it to be able to
almost definitely
machine learning side of things, because it can think so much faster than humans can. So as we're getting to that point in Singularity and all these, open source AIs they're coming on the scene, and they're actually trying to be more humane about it and understanding it. And I think there are a lot of scientists, AI scientists out there that are pro human, pro mankind. I doubt there's that many of them that are nefarious.
Yeah.
I would think a lot of them are
then I think this. We limit who we hand the keys of the keys to the car.
Yes.
Right. So what I say is, if you're going to apply AI to stuff, just, be careful in the beginning what you decide to give it access to.
Yeah. And as we have machine learning and it's going more than doing chess or winning games, and it's becoming, in the article they talk about machine overlords. I know, overlords. Yeah,
he's got the big dark hood and his lightning coming out.
I'm worried about military industrial complex. I'm worried about large corporations using it for profit. That's what they've been using it for. But
states using it for control.
But whether you're a government or military industrial complex, when you have open source AIs like that, and you have millions of people that are dedicating, honest time to this, that the decentralized is going to win every time.
Every single time. Why do you think ants have been around so long?
Like DARPA's AI, I don't think, that's nefarious probably, but at the end of the day, having, because scientists volunteer their time to work on these AIs and stuff like that.
DARPA is for defense. It's got one thing only, and that's like, how do we deal with this during wartime? And
I want people to understand this, and we had talked about this the other day. As long as you have humans, you have to have the ability to protect.
Correct.
It's just the nature of humans, and we don't need to get too philosophical in that. But you're going to have AIs that are going to be military. And this is going to be more and more. And AIs are going to fight each other, and that's a great thing.
They'll disagree.
If the United Nations would get together and say, "Hey, we're going to have AI wars."
United AI.
Yeah, and whichever AI wins, that's the way it is. No bloodshed. I'm all in.
Let's do it.
Yeah, now
Here we go. I'm going to put my policy into AI. You put yours into AI, and we're going to have it run a simulation.
And let's see which one helps humanity the best.
Oop, how many people died during yours? Oh, too many.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. How much of the planet died? Oop, that's not a good policy. Why haven't policymakers put their policies into AI first? And you run it against certain checks. Does it affect human life? Does it positively help human life? Does it positively help the environment? Does this lay a strong foundation in the future? If it doesn't meet those criteria that we've decided for human life and our species, we're not putting those policies in place.
Because we're going to get to the point. If you tell a machine to, number one, you evaluate human life, number one. Now let's figure out some compromises, like you said, not a win and a loss.
Yeah.
Let's figure out some compromises and see what we can do. We'll have that ability fairly quickly.
I'm going to write an algorithm that reads policy, proposed policy, and talks about how it affects free will, human beings, all that other stuff. And I'm going to say, give me a bench. What does this hit?
It would kick out how many policies? You think
99.9999999% of them. First of all, it wouldn't even like the policies because policies demand, for people to follow suit. Adherence, correct. So it'd be like, why are you writing policies?
But I think whether it's TARTLE, or maybe your IBM. Like, let's take IBM for instance.
IBM,
yeah, and they have Watson and all that. And they're using these artificial intelligence. They're trying to figure it out more with their customers. But there's intelligence that's not artificial that you haven't tapped into yet that you can tap into with TARTLE. True human intelligence.
Human intelligence. You look to these machines to give you some sort of idea of what's happening and explain the outside world, but you have no empirical evidence on what's going on in the minds of people. That's the real intelligence. You haven't tapped
That's the real data.
You haven't tapped into people's minds. And the way you do that is to go to them and source that information from them. Let me know
Ethically
your thoughts.
Source it,
yeah. Let me understand what's going on with you. Having you in a conversation, I don't care if you run a company right now where there's Fortune 500 or 1 or 1,000 or whatever. Doesn't it feel good when you go home? If you do go home, if you're not working like a nut. Someone looks at you and says, how are you feeling? Legitimately, stop you for a moment. It changes the conversation. You've been pulled around all day long in the office, people trying to grab your attention, do this, do that, deal with the lawyers, blah, 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 blah. But when do you get the moment, the time and attention where someone's like, I really want to know? That feeling that you felt through that, whether it's a relationship or what have you, or even your own thoughts, imagine if you could do that for the entire world. Imagine the joy you would have in sourcing that information, the truth, and the learning that would happen when you took the time and attention for every single person. That's powerful.
And you know, whether you're IBM or Google, take some of your artificial intelligence funds and shift them in direction for TARTLE and try it out, test it.
Yeah, listen.
See the information, compare it to what your machine learning does, compared to actually asking the person.
Yeah.
And now you could, if you even want to take it one step farther, take both of those and compare it and see if you can find similarities.
Right. This is what the machine or you defined as the measure.
Right.
And this is what the human being defines as their own measure.
Because now what are you able to do? Now you can go back into the algorithm.
Retune it.
And retune it.
Retune it to humans,
Mm-hmm.
not retune it for the benefit of AI. Snap, crackle, effing pop, see ya, IBM.